A very good evening and welcome to all the participants to this 56th Wise Views Leadership Conversation. We are extremely happy to have Dr. S.S. Mantha with us. He is the leader who is going to speak to us this evening. Please join me in welcoming Dr. S.S. Mantha. Sir, good evening and welcome to this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, these conversations we have been having over the last 56 weeks. This is the 56th one to say so. And we have been enjoying, and your participation has been fueling our enthusiasm to come back week after week. And I'm sure it's going to continue for a long, long time. Each of these conversations is aimed at sparking that leadership trait or that inspiration amongst the working professionals who are around the screen today and every week to take note of that and try and build their own teams, execute that in their work sphere. It need not be a corporate world because most of you probably are from corporate, but others who come from social work, who come from sports and various walks of life, all of them would have applications of these leadership sparks. So we hope you've been enjoying all the while. And without much ado, I would now like to have a very brief introduction of the guest. And after that, I hand it over to Dr. S.S. Mantha to start his lecture. Allow me to share the screen, please. So we call it Wise Views Leadership Conversations. Dr. Mantha is going to talk about AI-powered Atmanirbharta. And this is for an hour. The first 30 minutes will be a lecture by Dr. S.S. Mantha, followed by 30 minutes of Q&A. There could be a little bit of spillover, but this is a very, very interesting topic and we have lots of questions. And I'm sure additional questions, if any, that you have, you can actually key that in the Q&A session or the chat box. About Dr. Mantha, he is very popular, former chairperson of AICTE. He is currently the CEO of Mahapreet Startup Knowledge Center, which is a subsidiary of Government of Maharashtra. He is also an adjunct professor at the National Institute for Advanced Studies, NIAS, Bangalore, an emeritus professor at VJTI and chairman of Technical Committee, National Cyber Safety and Security Standards, and IT expert for the Government of Maharashtra. He held various positions, and some of them are as former chairman of AICTE, Dr. Mantha implemented several e-governance initiatives and facilitating regulations in his 6-year stint with AICTE. Earlier, as a professor of robotics, control theory, and artificial intelligence at VJTI, he now occupies the emeritus chair at VJTI, as I mentioned earlier. Dr. Mantha has more than 280 publications in national and international journals and various conferences, besides authoring 3 books. He is the author of NVEQF, now renamed the National Skill Qualification Framework, NSQF. He was member Karnataka Skill Development Authority and advisor to Government of Andhra Pradesh. He was also the chancellor of the KL University in Andhra Pradesh. With this brief introduction, I now once again thank Dr. Mantha for agreeing to speak in these conversations. Sir, thank you very much and welcome you again. Kindly start your lecture. We are all ears and we will follow it up with the Q&A session when you stop. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Keep making notes and also share questions if you have any. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sudhakar Rao and Prasad, and all the ICFAI faculty, students, and so on who are present here. And first of all, my thanks for inviting me to this program on Friday evening. What I will do is take you through to the concept of Atmanirbharta through artificial intelligence. Now, whether that's really possible, whether it's, what are the connotations, what are the dimensions, that is what we will be seeing in today's, lecture of about half an hour. So, in the title, I have used 2, words. I've used artificial intelligence and I've also used Atmanirbharta. Now, they need some explanation. First, let's understand what Atmanirbharta is, and then we'll see what AI means and what connect there is between AI and Atmanirbharta. Let me quote a Sanskrit shloka here. Sarvam paravasham dukkham, sarvam atmavasham sukham, etad vidyat samasena lakshana sukha dukkhayoho. Sarvam paravasham dukkham. It means everything in others' control will cause me pain, and everything in one's own control causes happiness. Sarvam paravasham dukkham, sarvam atmavasham sukham. And these are the basic tenets of truths of pain and happiness. Etad vidyat samasena lakshana sukha dukkhayoho. So having said that, the idea is really to see how the Atmanirbharta is connected to what we call as intelligence. And if at all it is connected to intelligence, then is it really connected to also artificial intelligence? So having said that, there will always be a debate on whether there is anything in the world that is really Atmanirbhar. Is not everything nirbhar on something? Is not everything dependent on something? Are we not dependent on others? Our earth is, nirbhar on the sun. Our sun is dependent on the cosmos, the galaxies, and so on. So who is actually Atmanirbhar? So now, if you look at this part of science which gets into this area, there are what are called as virtual particles in quantum theory. And what is quantum theory? It's a fundamental theory in physics that gives a description of the physical properties of nature at the scale of atoms and subatomic particles. Now, they do not behave as normal particles. The virtual particles, they do not behave as normal particles, and they could as well be independent. But then they are short-lived and cannot be directly detected. But that they affect physical quantities, such as the mass of the particle or the electric force between two charged particles in measurable ways. Now, which means that we need science beyond boundaries to understand these concepts. And we also need intelligence and we need forbearance. We need to understand the entire theory behind in order to really follow what this means. So can we build AI-based algorithms to explain this? Now the basic question, can artificial intelligence survive without human intelligence? What is the difference between the two? Human intelligence is a collection of complex cognitive feats and high levels of motivation and self-awareness that allows us to learn concepts and understand and apply logic and reason. Now, we also are good at pattern recognition, comprehending ideas, planning, solving problems, making decisions, retaining information, and using language to communicate. And all these put together, they enhance our intelligence. How do we manage so many feats? There are so many things that I have said. How do we manage all these, features that we seem to possess? We do it with a coordinated effort of our senses. Sense of sight, sense of hearing, sense of smell, sense of taste, and touch or feel. There are two more which also help us. They are called vestibular sense that keeps our balance, the ability to stand straight, and movement and proprioception that tells our body our awareness, our consciousness, or how big are we or how small are we, and things like that. Our consciousness, basically. There are many more senses which we may have never even thought of, but only felt. Actually and all this put together, they make our human world smart. Now, in the real world today, there are sensors. Now, what I told you is how the human body behaves, how its cognitive effort comes in, and how we perceive the world. But in the real world of today, times that we live in currently, there are also sensors that will measure all these parameters that I talked about, or we have listed as above. Around the massive data that is collected from these sensors, various patterns evolve, and several rules that we build will decipher those patterns. From the sensory data, patterns will evolve, and based on some rule position, they will decipher into specific events as we understand. So these rule-based systems are the algorithms that will now showcase to us human-like behavior, which we actually call as artificial intelligence. Now, will artificial intelligence surpass the human thinking one day? Will artificial intelligence predict the future? That is where Atmanirbharta comes in. Will AI one day grow uncontrollably, eventually wiping out the humanity? If it decides we are incapable of governing ourselves, resulting in a moment of AI singularity. What is a singularity? There are points in space where there are no solutions. So we have the ability to solve problems since we plan by anticipating the future. How do we solve problems as human beings? We anticipate the future. We try and predict the future, and therefore we try and solve the problems. We understand the current conditions, predict how the environment will evolve, and anticipate the outcomes of the actions that will be applied. Now, if this is how we solve problems, can AI do all of this for us? Can AI actually predict the future? The minute I predict the future, I can plan for it, I can solve problems in the future, and so on. And that is where Atmanirbharta comes in. How do we build Atmanirbharta? Only when we build self-reliance, and self-reliance comes out of trying to solve problems, which means that I have to predict the future. Now, quantum theory thinks otherwise. Predicting the future may not be possible. It's not always easy to predict the future because the universe is not a steady state condition. The university is first of all random. It is chaotic and it is also unstable, which means that predicting the future in such a scenario is extremely difficult. Are we and our intelligence capable of predicting the future then? So is it possible to discretize the randomness? Now we are talking about some mathematical modeling. Now, is it possible to discretize the randomness to a point that it resembles a continuous function now? If I can do that, then there is a possibility of predicting the future. Predicting the future will build Atmanirbharta for us, as I've been saying, because we can plan better, anticipate better, and also do course corrections. Hence, the big question is it possible to build an AI-powered Atmanirbharta if we ourselves are not capable of doing it? Can machines do it for us? If with our cognitive abilities, we cannot predict the future because the universe doesn't function in a structured fashion. It's random, it's chaotic, and so on. So AI seems to be ruling our world today. And data analytics and AI are increasingly being used in today's world to derive systems both within the government and outside it, resulting in efficiency of working and saving in time. Now, intelligent agents and AI, they help in perceiving the environment and help us take actions to successfully achieve our goals. AI's success is in its ability to mimic the cognitive functions of the human beings. There are sensors, there are similar to sensors that we have, there are sensors outside the world, and AI's success is actually in mimicking the way we behave, the way our cognitive functions, they work. So therefore, how do we behave? How does one human being behave with the other human being? Such as how does one human being learn from the other human being? How do they do problem solving? Now, all these features must be built into a system that is actually trying to measure parameters outside the human body and do similar things as a human being is doing. Now, as humans, we all make errors. That's a part of the human, the functions that we are talking about. So we make a lot of errors, but the advantage of using artificial intelligence it has the benefit of being supported by machines and not human systems, which means they have a superior computational abilities than humans, such as the ability to go through enormous amount of data and use that data to make better decisions. Simply put, AI has the ability to do the heavy thinking for us. If there is monumental data in front of us, the human brain or the human system, the way we understand our cognitive functions, it takes a lot of time going through the data that is available and then coming to certain decisions. But all this can be automated in a AI environment. So what can AI can do? What does AI do for us? It finds trends within the data. It finds trends. How is the data? Somewhere it's very very spiking towards a very high value, or somewhere there is a trough, and so on. Then it finds us patterns. How the data is grouped together, in what form is it grouped, and so on. And it also tells us associations between data. Then it discovers inefficiencies for us. The algorithms will move through the data and will tell you a human system is normally also inefficient in certain way. But a machine system, because it's automated, that environment will cover the inefficiencies. So it discovers inefficiencies. It executes plans better, and there is no uncertainty in that execution as a human mind perceives. And it also learns and becomes faster over a period of time. It predicts future outcomes based on historical trends. For example, weather data, all kinds of data that is available outside. For example, recently, the last 2 years, we had a lot of COVID data, and it allows us to predict future outcomes based on historical trends. Now, all this to do for a human mind is probably extremely difficult, and they will take a long, space of time in order to achieve that. Now, AI can also inform us fact-based decisions, which means that the logic that we use within the algorithms will allow us to make decisions based on facts. In addition to artificial intelligence, we also must talk about machine learning. Now, that's a technological subset of artificial intelligence. It's built into AI, which allows computers to adjust when exposed to new data. Basically learning without being explicitly programmed. You don't have to do any programming, but it learns from past experiences, and therefore learning without being explicitly programmed is what machine learning does, how our machine learns. So machine learning is actually equivocal to data mining in the databases. Databases are examined by humans to produce new insights, new trends, and information. Okay? Therefore, machine learning is able to provide us an unbiased analysis of the data, which is part of AI. And therefore, in a generic sense, we talk about AI, but some of the actions that happen within AI are because of machine learning. Now, our applications in real time, whether they belong to us or to the industries that we serve feature a combination of interconnecting inputs and variables. Analyzing complex data to understand meaningful value can often, overwhelm us as humans, and it becomes difficult to find adequate solutions in a timely manner. There's a huge amount of data. So how do you sift through the data, find patterns, find, some relationship between data, and then come out with a solution? That for the human mind, this actually is extremely time consuming. So future of AI will influence the way we think, the way we work, and the way we evolve, all happening in the future timelines. Healthcare, transforming how we learn. For example, personalized learning in education, which we have seen in the last 2 years, the NEP talks about it. Being smarter about energy, cybersecurity, consumer goods, you talk about anything, and there is AI in it. And they all need preventative and predictable ways of accomplishing. In each of these areas, AI prediction technology, they see there is AI, artificial intelligence, which is actually autonomous. And the predictive part of it will need data and analysis to come out with basic solutions. So AI prediction technology can be used to study millions of files and massive data to understand what exactly causes the problem. And then we could exactly predict the future based on the data and high-level analytics. And machine learning could then use the past to make predictions about the future. So by comprehending their mathematical DNA, now by comparing the mathematical DNA, we can actually predict and even prevent prevent future problems. So that brings us Atmanirbharta. So are we not building Atmanirbharta through predictive analysis? However, AI itself is completely autonomous, like I said. So let's look at something closer to our lives. We get up in the morning, and through 12 hours, period, we go through several activities. Let's look at a small example of what we actually do from the time that we get up. In fact, AI today rules us on everything we do. Probably it's hard to imagine our daily routines without the help of AI. It may sound a little funny, but it's a fact. Are we not all hooked on to our smartphones 24/7 by 365? And if someone takes possession of your mobile for some time, you'll probably get extremely angry, saying, getting into that ego domain. Now let's look at the example. First thing in the morning, having woken up, we stare into the phone to unlock it. When it is unlocked, AI enables biometrics, such as our Face ID. Your Apple has this. When Apple's Face ID recognizes a face in 3D, it lights up the face and places 30,000 invisible infrared dots and captures an image. Machine learning algorithms are now used to compare the scan of the face with what is stored in to determine if the person trying to unlock the phone is the same or not. A little Atmanirbharta here. Having unlocked, most of us rush to see the social media accounts like the Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, or something similar. Have we ever realized that it is AI that personalizes what we see? Having learned it from our previous surfing history, we surf, aimlessly sometimes with some aim. But do you know that everything is being recorded somewhere? So have you ever realized that it is AI that personalizes what we see? Having learned it from our previous surfing history, it even figures out our friend suggestions and filters fake news for us. It gives you a list. Facebook gives you a list. These are all could be your new friends. Where does it get that list from? Sometimes it even prevents us from cyber scams. Remember all the smart alerts that we keep getting on the phone? We might then catch up on work and send a few mails across, complete with language auto check for spellings and grammar, all on the mobile. Now you are going to you are ready to go to office. You are in your vehicle and you start operating your mobile to send some mails, read your mails and things like that. Now what happens? AI again and natural language processing, which is a part of AI, is at work. On the other hand, when we receive mails, spam filters use AI to block emails suspected to be spam. There are some mails which automatically go into spam. Who does it? AI does that. Even the antivirus software that sits on our machines uses machine learning to protect our email account. We cannot spend an hour without searching Google for some word or product or an event. We have AI again, for no search engine works without AI. Even the ads that keep popping up and chasing us are enabled by AI, again based on the search history that we have provided it. We then get, so we have gone to the office, we then get ready to reach office to attend a meeting, and lo, we get directions on the phone in reaching the destination. We would even get a weather report, information of a possible rain, all with a voiceover. You ever wondered how it is done? AI-powered digital voice assistants are at work that use natural language processing like the Siri and Alexa to Google Home and Cortana. The travel aids enabled by AI are not merely maps. You actually go to a map application and check maps and see directions and things like that. They are not just maps. They give real-time traffic. They even suggest ways to avoid gridlocks. The cars we drive or even our offices and homes are increasingly becoming smart, being installed with smart thermostats, which learn our heating, cooling preferences and daily habits and adjust the temperature to our liking. Soon we may even see driver assist technology cars on our roads to drive us to and from work. I'm not talking of driverless cars, I'm talking of driver assist cars. On our way to work, we might want to visit a bank. Here too, several services that assist us use AI. Have we not lost count of number of security alerts we get of our transaction and that detect fraud? Suppose we deposit a check by scanning it with our phone, or get a low balance alert, or even log on to our online banking account, it is AI at work. If we stop over at a petrol filling station to buy petrol, use a debit card, credit card, AI will verify the purchase to determine if it is normal transaction, to either validate or decline the transaction for fear someone unauthorized is using your credit card. All this powered by AI. We all must have bought something sometime online through the online retailer, Amazon. What is not known, however, is that Amazon is so confident in its predictive analysis and algorithms with its anticipatory shipping algorithm. It will ship products even before we enter click to buy. As the day ends, now let's move further. As the day ends and as we return home to relax, many of us turn to streaming devices such as Netflix. Its recommendation engine is powered by AI and uses past viewing history to deliver suggestions for what we might want to watch, including genres, including actors, time periods, and more. Its tool gets so specific as what time of day you are watching and what traditionally like during that time frame. In fact, Netflix recommendations drive 80% of what we see today, what we watch today on the PC, on the laptop. So, can AI outsmart humans? In a paper published last year titled, "When will AI exceed human performance?" Can AI exceed human performance? There's a research conducted on this. Evidence from AI experts, elite researchers in artificial intelligence predicted that human level machine intelligence, or HLMI, human level machine intelligence, has a 50% chance of occurring within the next 45 years. And they also predict 10% chance of occurring within the next 9 years. Elon Musk, who is in the news in most of the times, and recently for his Twitter, taking over or whatever, he says that AI is likely to overtake humans in the next 5 years. So much for AI. Now, in as much as AI helps ease our chores, our daily activities, in recent times, job opportunities have come down with its onslaught, coupled with automation, intelligent agents, highly specialized industry 4.0, changing business processes, and changing economic fortunes, of nations. The PwC predicts that by the mid-2030s, up to 30% of the jobs could be automated. And CBS News reports machines could replace 40% of the world's workers within the next 15 to 25 years. We are talking of AI-powered Atmanirbharta. The real question to answer is, are we becoming Atmanirbhar or AI-Nirbhar? In the madness of achieving perfection and wanting to predict the future, we seem to be losing ourselves. So as humans, we must sit and pause. We must understand our consciousness and our roots. Nirapeksho nirvikaro nirbhara shitalashayaha agada buddhir kshuptopha chinmatravasana. The human mind, or the human consciousness, or the human intelligence is unconditioned, changeless, formless, immovable. It has unfathomable awareness and is unperturbable. So hold on to that consciousness. Nirapeksho nirvikaro nirbhara shitalashayaha agada buddhir kshuptopha chinmatravasana. So hold on to that consciousness, that intelligence, and that consciousness cannot be replicated. AI can only take us there, but will not help us cross the metaphysical bridge. So I end my talk for today and hope you liked it. And my thanks once again to the organizers and my friends here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's a very interesting lecture talking about Atmanirbharta and how it's related or powered by artificial intelligence. I think it looked like a detailed account of how AI has become all pervasive in our lives, and in every walk of our life, in every step that we take, in the routine of the 24 hours that we have both at home and at work, how it has already occupied a majority of functions and how it is determining various outcomes with us is enough to say that it's going to have a predominant role in predicting the future as well. I'm particularly amused about the way you have started this lecture in narrating that the locus of control is the determinant of happiness. I mean, it cannot be more simpler than that. I think everything else emanates from that. And several applications that you have listed is, for some time, it looked like a work of fiction when we first read about these things. But as we have started taking note of these things, that is, realizing that we are going through several applications and benefits of AI, we started believing in it. And when we started believing in it, there is a lot that we don't know what is going to happen. Whether AI is going to predict our future, looks like we are almost there. And some of the predictions and the percentages of likelihood that the human level machine intelligence being 50% chance to become true in the next 45 years and 10% chance in the next 9 years. I think that defines overall purpose of the entire discussion that we are talking about today. So thank you very much, sir. Without actually wasting even 1 minute, I will request Professor Prasad to step in. And for the members who have joined for the first time, my brief introduction of Professor Prasad is that he's the Director of Academic Wing at ICFAI Group. He is an alumnus of IIT Bombay and IIM Calcutta. He has 3 decades of rich experience. He heads the online MBA program that we have launched. He is the architect and professor and mentor there. And he is my esteemed colleague. Thank you very much, Professor Prasad. Let's embark on the Q&A with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rao. Thank you, sir, for an excellent presentation. For a layman, you have given a bird's eye view in very, very simple terms. And you've also landed us on where we are right now, as well as some very serious questions for thought. We have a number of clusters, so I'll start at an overview level here. And the first question that we have here is you've connected AI to Atmanirbharta. So if you take India as a case, how do we go about using, which are the areas that you think that we need to focus on when compared to others in the world for this particular mission, sir?
Yeah, I mean, we are an agri nation. So therefore, there is a lot of AI already used in agriculture. And in India, probably you need systems to, more systems to predict the uncertainty that exists within agriculture. For a farmer, if you can provide him the right information at the right time and give him inputs as to when to sow, when to do the harvesting and things like that. So that's certainly one area where AI would make a very big difference. Applications in agriculture. The other area that it can actually help is the defense application. There are several defense applications where AI comes in, and in order, the entire intelligence that's based on the warfare today is, a lot of it comes from AI. There are several other applications besides this, and one important area is healthcare. And within healthcare, the current pandemic has actually exposed the deficiencies that we have in the system. And therefore, it's very necessary to collect a lot of data, collect that data, and create, patterns out of that. And if it is possible to predict maybe a similar pandemic or maybe the next, wave that comes in, it will be so much useful. That's one place where it will be useful. And the second is the way we have gone about, getting our vaccines, and the way we have used those vaccines in order to treat people, and the various medicines and formulations that people have used in order to cure some of the symptoms that we have seen in the pandemic, during the pandemic. Now, if all the data that is available can be collated, again, it will be very useful to, get into the next cycle of, treatment and so on. So there have been a lot of hits and misses. There have been lots of trial and errors in the last 2 years that we have seen. We are all aware of how different vaccinations have come into the market, and various pharmaceutical companies have been claiming several benefits of those vaccines. And therefore, what it all boils down to is how do you collect that data? How do you sequence that data? And then how do you create intelligent patterns out of that, and create algorithms which can now, sift through all this data and create some meaningful predictions for the future. So these are some of the areas. Of course, AI today has several applications in finance. In fact, the entire KYC is a AI-based, activity. So anything that you talk about today has AI built into it. The entertainment industry, there's a lot of AI used there. Any industry that you talk about, manufacturing industry, in machine learning is something that's coming up very fast. Industry 4.0 is something that we are all seeing. Whereas in the earlier days, we had, in the very early days, we had those human operated lathes and machine tools and so on. For a period of time, we came to start using those CNCs, and CNCs connected over a network called a DNC and things like that. And people could actually fire jobs from sitting anywhere across the world and use the labor, rules of a certain country and manufacture anything anywhere and bring all of them together and, assemble to get the price, benefits into the market. So many automobile companies have used that. In Japan, there was a survey that was conducted which said which 10 automobile companies stand out in the list, the first 10 automobile industries. And 7 of them were from Japan. And the only thing that they did was outsource their activities. And all that was possible because of the CNCs and the ability to fire a job sitting anywhere and only monitoring the quality of the machines and so on. Moving from that step also, today we have, this machines talking to machines. So that's the part of AI and machine learning and so on. And completely automated environment is probably being created. There's no escape from this. Countries have to follow this if they have to compete with the global markets. So like I said, the applications of AI are there everywhere. And anything that you talk about, there's an application of AI.
Thank you, sir. I think you've given some good priorities. One of the questions that was following was about entrepreneurial opportunities in AI. And I think you've highlighted 6 areas. You've given the first 3 more immediate priority in terms of agriculture, defense apps, and healthcare. And you've also talked about finance, entertainment, and manufacturing. I think all of these have got a lot of situations for potential entrepreneurs to also look at. So the next question. We have a lot of technology which is being talked about, AR, VR, metaverse, and there are a lot of exciting ideas that people are discussing. In this context, where do we currently stand, sir, in terms of, if you look at the top ranked countries which have initiatives in this and with whom we need to compete, where do we stand, sir?
The AR, VR technology, the devices and so on, we are more users at this point of time rather than into hardcore technology at this point of time. So it's there in entertainment, it's there in education today. So, and it's also used in medical robotics. And therefore, the use of the technology is certainly there, but it's still far too expensive to bring it to a level where people would start probably using it. But as far as the technology itself is concerned, I don't think we are there anywhere in creating new technology in either AR, VR, metaverse, whatever you talk about. Applications, yes, there are applications being developed depending on what kind of applications that we are actually talking about. Most of it is we see in entertainment industry, and some of it we see today slowly getting into the education domain. And that is also because of something that's happening to the online education. In the online education space, what we have seen is in the last 2 years, there has been a lot of, online people used so-called online media, but what they actually did is get onto Zoom-like platform and do exactly what they were doing in the classroom. So give a lecture of 45 minutes or 50 minutes or whatever, and the technology would probably get them how many people have joined and things like that. But there is hardly any real-time use of that, because most of the people used to switch off the video and audio as well. That's also because of the bandwidth issues and so on. So therefore, a lot of uncertainty was there in terms of how many people have actually listened to the and how useful the entire pedagogy has really been. So therefore, and the other part of it is the research. Research tells you today that hardly 17 to 18 minutes is all that you can hold on to in a visual medium, in terms of interest and so on. So therefore, people are working. There are a lot of research projects happening in the world where people would want to find out what is it that makes people hook on to video games and play for hours together. But when there is a video lecture, people are hardly there for 15 minutes. So that brings us to the gaming, the gaming algorithms and so on. And in that space, you need AR, VR devices. And that's what is happening in the education world currently. So I think AR, VR is still a long way to go in the country, except maybe a few startups are experimenting using AR, VR in the area of education.
Thank you, sir. I think what you're mentioning is in the area of applications, perhaps there are a number of startups. In the area of technology, there's much to be done.
Yes.
So the next question is about when you see this mission, AI-powered Atmanirbharta, what do you see as the two key structural factors or critical challenges that are ahead of us? In this context, some of the questions from the audience, which is enclosed in this, is one is about the rich versus poor divide. The other is about the employment issue. So what do you currently see as the factors here, which are critical challenges?
I mean, the first one probably would be the employment issues. People see, whenever there is a technology, there is always going to be some changes within the environment that we are in. Having said that, if you look at the employment markets, they have been changing, they have been evolving, and and the whole change has been brought about by automation, a lot of automation. Now, in the earlier days, we used to see a pyramid-like structure for employment, where at the base you needed more number of people with lesser order of skills. But as you go up, you needed people with better skills, but the numbers were reducing. But today, with automation in place at the entry level, that's where it hurts. At the entry level, you have a lot of automation. The jobs can be automated at that entry level. Even the coding. There was a time when people used to go in large numbers from here to code in the projects that companies used to bid for in the other countries. Today, even that is not available. So what has happened? The intelligent agents have all taken over, and even the coding is sought to be automated. Now, hardly any coding is done at that level today. But then what has happened is higher order skills are required even at the entry level. So therefore, what the entire industry is metamorphosing into lesser number of jobs at the entry level, but with higher order skills. And as you go up, the same thing keeps happening. So the entire pyramid-like structure has actually become a pipe-like structure. So on one side, saying that, yes, the jobs, it has affected the jobs, but then one should not probably look at it in that, with that mirror alone. One has to see where the dimensions of this automation has taken us. And there are jobs which are being created in other areas which need a different set of skills. So therefore, what is required is a constant skilling, reskilling, upskilling, and so on. Now, whereas in the earlier days, if somebody entered a automobile industry as a quality control engineer, you would probably retire as one. But today that doesn't seem to happen. even for quality control, you have completely automated machine tools which do that. So therefore, one has to understand that the technology will certainly bring changes. And I mean, we all know that change is the only thing that is permanent. So therefore, we need to understand that change will be there. We cannot fight change. But what we need to do is make ourselves good enough to accept the change and move with the change, which means that we need to skill, upskill, reskill, all that. And that is where Atmanirbharta comes in. I mean, as a person, in a generic sense, every one of us depends on something, on the others. But in a specific sense, unless you build yourself to meet the challenges, it really doesn't work. So therefore, employment scene is certainly changing, but what it is calling for is retrain yourself to fit into other level of jobs. There are different classes of economies evolving. In the, 10 years earlier, we didn't see what we today call as gig economy. And there are several jobs which have come in today, which we never thought of in the earlier days. But are they sustainable jobs? Is this what we are seeing? Is it sustainable model? These are things which only time will answer. But yes, I mean, the skill levels needed are going higher, and therefore we need to keep ourselves abreast of that. The second point that you said is the rich and poor, the divide in that. Any technology would bring changes, but if the divide between rich and poor is not only because of technology, it's because of various factors. And somehow at the end of the day, if the economy moves in a certain direction, which is actually increasing the difference between the haves and the have-nots, then probably some course correction will be required. But then that is a matter of a lot of debate, and many more events, influence that factor. It's not only the technology that makes a difference there.
Thank you, sir. I think you have given excellent perspective and you've positioned the problem in both the areas. I think in the case of employment, you have highlighted that the higher order skills versus the lower order skills, and therefore you've given education a big task in order to what needs to do in order to meet this particular challenge. Just about 10 days back, the Accenture CEO was saying the same thing, that the most important skill that they look at is the ability to learn. And I think you have highlighted that upskilling, reskilling, whether you are in college or whether you're in a job, I think all these things are extremely important.
Cognitive flexibility is the most important. Cognitive flexibility, the ability to fit into different situations and be as useful in different environments. That's what is required.
Thank you, sir. I think you've given a new definition to what employability is in a certain sense. The other dimension that you mentioned is that technology is not the only factor which is there in the rich and poor debate, and that there are other controls which are needed after a lot of debate and discussion. Thank you, sir. I think I hand this over to Professor Rao for the next cluster.
Thank you very much, Professor Prasad. Sir, it's very, very interesting. And we are today joined by several leaders, leaders from education, IT, armed forces, some of them from India and some of them are from abroad as well. So I welcome all of them once again to this very interesting conversation. Let us see how many more questions we can take within the stipulated time. But those who would like to ask questions, please raise your hands. We will give preference to that. And I have a huge set of questions for myself. Let me go fast, sir. I'll also request you to treat these as short answer questions, if possible. The slow adoption of AI across the industry is what is there for us to observe. What are your views on the slow adoption of AI across industry?
The industries would probably have those targets to meet, and they are slow to adopt technology, and because of the pressures on their production schedules and targets and things like that. But over a period of time, believe me, technology will overcome them. So it's those industries who adopt technology, as it comes, probably they will mean business in time to come.
Great. So it's a matter of time. Sir, what are some of the initiatives being taken to make farmers benefit from AI-based solutions? Any top of the mind 3-4 initiatives?
Absolutely. I mean, there are several applications available even today for benefit of farmers. There are predictive, algorithms which predict the onset of monsoon, onset of rain, onset of sunshine, or there are soil cards which are being used, which take information from several sensors and suggest to the farmer as to when he should, water, or when he should use pesticides, when he should sow the seeds, when you should, till the land and things like that. So there are several applications in the market today, as from the perspective of agriculture, and there are several other models available in the supply chains that propel that drive agricultural markets right from the farm to the other end.
Great. There are indeed many areas of application for the benefit of farmers and the sector, agriculture as a sector itself. Thank you, sir. We often have seen that we talked about upskilling and reskilling, and upskilling and reskilling is a challenge actually in India. How can AI help in this regard? How can AI itself help us in upskilling and reskilling?
No, AI is a set of algorithms which help you to, go through or search through massive data and then help in decision making, in, creating some kind of patterns and things like that. So, and it also probably can help in terms of predictive analysis, though it itself is autonomous in that sense. Having said that, in terms of helping skilling and reskilling and upskilling and so on, maybe they, depending on an application in which area one needs reskilling and upskilling, probably some methods which are more efficient in terms of teaching, learning methodologies, pedagogies, that's where AI can probably help. In addition to that, probably it also can help in creating new content, which is more interactive, more intuitive, and so on.
Great. I think developing new content which is more engaging and intuitive, which is more amenable for your skilling, upskilling, or learning. I think that is one area. Sir, are there any applications used to evaluate the technical capabilities of a student? I'm coming back to the education sector.
Yeah. No, there are, see, what happens is technical capabilities of a student are built over a period of time. And it takes almost like, if I look at a undergraduate program, that's 4 years. And whatever capabilities are built in those 4 years. And therefore, there are two things here. The curriculum would probably bring you some basic understanding of the of different concepts and so on. So that's where some capabilities are built. But what is required is a student, at least, especially in today's world, must be alive to the environment, must keep his eyes and ears open, and look for different, look for additional material on every concept, which is easily available today. That's the plus point. And he must upgrade himself year after year as he moves through the undergraduate program. So that's where he builds most of the skills. Now, the second part is all this must be connected to the competency-based skills, which means hands-on skills. So if the curriculum makes it available to him, so much the better. But if it doesn't, then the student must go through internships, probably a month at least every year, connecting to the industry. And it's not necessary whether it is a part of his curriculum or it's not a part of his curriculum, or whether he would actually go and work in such an industry later. That's immaterial. What is required is he should understand how the industry functions. What are whichever area he gets into, what are the various activities that happen there, and what is the kind of decision making that happens there. If he can get into that analysis, probably all that builds additional technical capabilities in him. It's not necessary to actually go and be able to write a program for a rapid prototyping machine. But if he understands the mechanism behind that, and programming is what he can learn it maybe 10 days time. So that the idea of keeping the mind open, try and look around to learn, go and get some kind of internship in an industry, that works wonders.
Wonderful, sir. These are pertinent suggestions for not just the students, but also the institutions to lay the right kind of emphasis on what to actually direct the students about, keeping their eyes and ears open, constantly learn, observe the environment, look for that immersive experience through internships, and probably come back and be ready to handle that challenging environment, challenging roles that one is going to actually embark upon. I think it's fantastic. Thank you very much, sir. That's a comprehensive answer. There are two questions I'll take, and then I'll meanwhile ask the audience to raise their hands. Those of you who would like to ask Mantha sir questions directly. I think there's one hand that's already raised. We'll come to you. So one question is, in a world that is plagued by big resignation, how IoT and AI can actually help in employee retention?
Sorry, can you come again?
Around the big technology firms that we are seeing that large number of people are resigning. That's called big resignation, as you know. Okay. How can AI and IoT help employee retention in this phenomenon, in this scenario?
See, employee retention again is a function of several factors. Now, first of all, there must be an aptitude, an understanding of the workplace, the working conditions, the package that he gets, and the ability to move in the ladder, and the ability to learn something more than what he probably gets to do on the job. Now, increasing employee retention would actually mean that all these factors are addressed. Now, AI, I mean, depending on which part of it you are trying to address, would need, certain algorithms. In fact, there are algorithms which help in, working out a kind of personalized, establishing a personalized working condition within the industry. So there are applications which talk to the people in a remote environment. They handhold the people. They try and understand the problems and reply back in terms of all this. This happens in a virtual world with AI agents at the back end. So some of those things are happening even today in terms of employee retention. But then the idea is, unless there are challenging, every employee looks for different things in a working environment. So if there is a profiling that is done of the employee in order to understand what he is really looking at on the in the industry, then probably each one of those attributes which describe his profile would then can be addressed. So with that as a background, even the profiling and creating intelligent outcomes of that profile is also something that is being done within the HR domain in the industries using again AI agents.
Excellent, sir. I think this is very interesting of what you are talking about. We study the profile of the employee. We understand the strengths and weaknesses. If they are in the remote work environment, talk to them and understand their problems, and come back and create scenarios for them which are going to be more beneficial and positive outcomes from the employee point of view as well as the employer point of view. I think that's an amazing thing. We would like to see that happening in a greater measure in the days to come. I'm sure it has begun in various organizations, but the visibility of that is something which, and also experiencing the outcome of that particular phenomenon is something which will help all of us at the earliest. Thank you very much, sir. One interesting question is, I will ask Lavanya to to open her mic and ask question. But before that, one question to sir. What are the training programs for doctors under AI from government? This is one of the questions asked by a participant, sir. Are there any training programs for doctors under artificial intelligence, maybe initiated by government or private?
No, what happens is the medical field has very specific needs, and there's a lot of AI that is being used in whether it's preventive medicine or in the domain of surgeries that being performed, and so on. And most of the training that one needs is a specialized activity. And some of the aims that we have, they have some of those training programs. And besides that, there are some hospitals, for example, you have one in Coimbatore and Amrita and Damai hospital that you have. Now, these are some of the places where you can probably find a lot of training to use systems which use AI, not so much as using AI to improve systems, because that becomes an application area, and a doctor would have to really get into a different domain and learn AI in order to make his systems improved from his perspective. So there is an application area and there is a actual research area. The training is available within the application areas. Within the research areas, probably the people will have to go abroad to get that kind of work.
Fantastic, sir. Thank you very much for that example of that hospital where, or probably in other hospitals also, that is being taken up for application-oriented usage. Sir, we'll now request Lavanya to ask that question herself. Over to you, Lavanya. Please go ahead.
Sir, you had mentioned HLMI. So does it have its origin in Deep Blue supercomputer beating Gary Kasparov? That is one doubt. And the other thing is that, as you had mentioned, profiling of employees. So just to add on to that, the perception surveys and visibility mapping. So would that go together, sir?
See, most of the games, in fact, the entire gaming industry is a big application for artificial intelligence. And as you know, playing chess is actually a set of rules and a set of moves that one can keep predicting over a period of time. So how many moves can you think ahead is what makes you so much better. So that's an area which will keep evolving. There are and how fast do you do that? So most of the people who the grandmasters and people who actually do very well in chess are able to think ahead and get into as many moves as possible in as less a time as possible compared to the other fellow. Now, if that is what one is trying to do, then there are AI agents again, which help you to, given a start position, they tell you, how to get at a certain solution the fastest. Now there are training methodologies available which can help you, but then the process in real time will have to happen not with AI, but will have to happen by what you learn by practicing through algorithms that are based in AI. That's the first part. The second question, can you come again, please?
So the other one was about profiling of employees. So to add to that, the visibility mapping and perception surveys of employees. So do all of them go together, sir?
Yeah, they do. They do.
Okay.
They do.
Thank you, Lord, sir.
And a lot of machine learning also helps in, learning the chess-based moves.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lavanya, for asking that question. Actually, it is in a way a summary of what AI does, thinking ahead or how many moves ahead we can actually think and move our life about, not just about chess. Thank you very much. I think Samyadeep has a question, and even Dr. A.K. Saini, you can come to ask the question. Samyadeep and A.K. Saini, you can unmute yourself. But meanwhile, I'll have one question from a participant, sir. Is anyone working on developing an AI Sophia model under AI Atmanirbharta program? If yes, how soon?
No, there must be people. There are several applications related to that happening within the IITs. But outside that space, I won't really, definitely right. At least in Mumbai, IIT, it does happen today. There are people working on those kind of programs. Yeah, I'll request Dr. A.K. Saini to ask the question.
Good evening, sir. Sir, my question is basically about the trustworthiness of the technology. Basically, we are in a country where the demographic condition and the environmental conditions are very frequently changing. So, how to make it sure about that the technology which we are implementing is trustworthy? Because that is one of the biggest challenges with the AI.
No, anything that is ready for use, is thoroughly tested and is it goes through several steps of acceptance, and only then it is deployed. Now, therefore, saying that something will fail on the job is probably not correct. But having said that, there are ways where systems can possibly misbehave. The way you probably envisaged may not actually happen, and therefore there is a certain element of a certain probability that may happen. But then most of the systems that are, whether it's AI or based or whether it's something else, they all go through very critical tests. They go through acceptability tests, and only these are very rigorous, and only then they are deployed in real time. So there is nothing like trustworthiness of AI implementation. In sensitive areas, yes, even more depends on the acceptance tests.
Thank you very much for that. I'll now request Professor Prasad to come back. But one point is that Professor Prasad heads the online MBA program that we have launched recently, as you know. And you mentioned that 17 to 18% of 18 minutes of attention span is what we're talking about to make them engaged with our visual or online content. And the research is always working how to create new methods of engaging and creating that attention on the topic that we are talking about. Maybe some of the points that online MBA program at ICFAI, which works on especially the audience that we have is working professionals. These are all working professionals on an average, maybe about 6 to 8 years of experience, and they are coming back to learn a PG program with us. So I think some points with respect to how we are creating this immersive experience or anything closer to AR, VR or gaming that we are doing in the program, maybe we can talk about, Professor Prasad, and then you can raise 1 or 2 questions related to that, and I'll come back to wrap it up.
I think just to respond to your points, Professor Sudhakar, I think one thing we are doing is we are trying to keep our content to within 15 minutes, and that ranges from 2 minutes to 15 minutes. We also create a lot of videos which are interactive, animated, and which increases the engagement. So micro-learning is a basic principle that we put to work in everything that we do. Because attention spans are decreasing even for people who sit in campuses. So what to say about people who work? The other thing that we try to do is gamification in terms of making it more interesting and participating, where there are scores and leaderboards, etc. And I think the most important thing that we try to do is personalization into the work context, because we get an audience of people who have work experience. It's essentially about trying to understand how the framework maps into the case situation of the person who's working. So everyone has a good level of experience, and they need to translate it into conceptual frameworks for them to be able to apply it, generalize it, or contextualize it at a later point in time. So we have a lot of exercises which are meant towards that through course projects, which of course involve a lot of faculty time also. These are some of the things that we try to do. Of course, what we need to do in AR and VR, we still need to examine. We need to look at those startups which are doing something which brings in the real-time experience, and that we will definitely explore. These are some points. I think coming to the question, sir, I think I was listening carefully to the responses you gave regarding AI in education. And I think you put it brilliantly that the student can take charge by reading outside what is prescribed, but into an environment into which they aspire. That was one point that you mentioned. And the other point that you mentioned is about internships being there every year. So the question I wanted to ask, sir, beyond this, if an institution or a faculty member, because many times institution prescribes what needs to be done. So what can a faculty member do in order to improve this? Two things, two very, very critical things.
Yeah, I mean, both are very critical. Increasingly, our faculty must become, guides and mentors and move out from actually getting into a monologue in a classroom. I don't call it dialogue because hardly anything happens in that space. So I'll give you a small example. In one of the institutions, we had this the management was interested in bringing in some online education. So I said the best way to do it is you have to institutionalize that, and which means that you have to build it seamlessly into the curriculum first. So which means that if I had, let's say, 10 courses, I'll say that 2 courses of that must be online. Now the story just begins there; it doesn't end there. Now, for example, if you are looking at, let's say, Udemy or edX or Coursera kind of content, you implement that, but the faculty also must participate along with the students and also be certified for what the course does first. The second is when the second cycle begins, the faculty must handhold the students and add the content that's available online to the content that he himself has, to the knowledge base that he himself has. So that brings in much better results. But having said that, faculty is extremely important in terms of using the content. First of all, they see everything that is developed, whether it's content in entertainment or content in education, it has a context. and the context must be captured, if especially in education, if the concept has to come in. So therefore, the context that you create around the concept is extremely important. So the idea of capturing that context is also equally important than just merely teaching the concept. So therefore, teachers have a big role in that space. If they themselves are creating content, then of course the requirements are many. I always thought teaching is a performing art, which means that you need to be a performer all the time. Your domain expertise must be very good. Your presentation skills must be very good. You should be able to look at the audience and decide where the connect happens. There is an emotional connect that happens in a classroom, which is absent in an online mode. So therefore, in an online teaching mode, how do you bring that emotional connect into the system? So there must be a chat kind of a thing where there is a constant, exchange of ideas and exchange of thoughts and so on. In fact, the best content creation could happen if there are two experts doing the job. One, actually participating in developing the content, and the other one is trying to interpret and answer the questions that come up in a presentation time. So both of them complement each other, and then if you create a video on that basis, if you create a new pedagogy on that basis, probably that will be more effective. So what I'm trying to say is the teacher has a very important role, much more, and yes, I mean the learner also is equally important, because unless there is an interest factor, I mean everything doesn't come from a faculty. If the student must be equally passionate, equally interested in learning, and then if there is a connect, and if in order to sustain that interest of the student, the other side must be equally competent. And when there is an online mode involved here, then the effort of the teacher becomes much more than what you would otherwise spend in a classroom.
Wonderful, sir. I think you have given more what I would call insights into this entire process. The first being that the role of the facilitator and the mentor, and the behavioral change which needs to come because of this. I think this is also connected to the fact that this context and concept connect, and the equal importance of both, which is also something which is involves a certain kind of a behavior. And I think you've also given this framework of two people. I think that's also an excellent idea, and I think it does help in experimentation. There's somebody who's doing the content development and somebody who's interpreting it into the context which is relevant in that particular situation. And you also suggested a particular method of chat, as one of the ways by which this can be understood, including the emotional dimension of the learning process. Thank you very much, sir, for those inputs. Let's hope we put it into practice. I hand it back to Professor.
Thank you very much. Sir, we would like to close it now with your permission. We are reaching 9 p.m. So I have asked for only for 1 hour, 10 minutes or so, but we are beyond the time. So what I would like to do is briefly capture this very interesting and intriguing topic today. AI is the buzzword and everyone would like to know about it, talk about it, and probably adopt it in ways and means that are possible at individual level as well as at an organizational level that one belongs to. The overview that you have presented has strengthened the knowledge and confirmed whatever we knew in the past and what we would be likely to experience and read in future. So in terms of all pervasiveness of AI and in every walk of life that it is already present and it will be present has been amply clarified, and the number of sectors and segments that it is already present is large, ranging from agriculture to education to healthcare, manufacturing, defense services, in all the functions that various people work in organizations like in marketing, martech, HR and finance, huge number of applications that we already are witnessing. So that's going to help us look at it from a different point of view and be ready for it. But the overriding thought process in the whole conversation today has been how are we capable of adopting our understanding AI and helping the machine learn from us and better us as we move forward. So human-like behavior is what artificial intelligence is aimed at doing, and how AI is going to better a human-like performance or behavior. I think that is what is the most important and intriguing factor that we have talked about today. In terms of being online, whether it is for organizations other than education or education, I think mere video conferencing facilities is not online. That is very important point that we clarified. I think initial days, which were actually hustled by pandemic, one has gotten into online, but that's not anywhere closer to fully online. It was only using a few tools here and there. But what is a fully online kind of interaction? Performing certain tasks, closing certain cycles, completing learning, and in an environment which is not education, in terms of delivering various actions and bringing some products and services to your living room. I think all these things were part of this, and therefore it calls for using applications of AI in every form and every manner that's available to us. Attention spans definitely are reducing, whether it is education or even in advertising or in the content that we share, in terms of trying to grab the attention of the consumer. So the challenges are many-fold right now. Earlier, we used to have 60-second advertisements, and now those advertisements are getting shorter by the day. And similarly, in terms of learning, in terms of various other applications, also that's a challenge. How gamification and immersive technologies or immersive programs can help us in retaining those attention from the consumers or the teachers, students, so on and so forth. There are several challenges, and the popular belief that AI is going to replace the jobs has to be understood in the right context, that entry-level jobs could be reduced, and whereas higher order skills are required for the jobs at the higher end. And instead of a pyramid that it is currently, it is going to be a pipeline kind of a requirement. So that's a fantastic explanation for most of us to understand. And the divide between the rich and poor has got a context view. And anytime any new concept is ushered in, such worries are actually voiced. But fundamentally, technologies do not create these divides, but how we use them and how we apply them in a lopsided manner would probably lead to some kind of divides, and that has to be addressed through other means. One very beautiful analogy is the chess, which has emanated from a question asked by one of our participants, is that how fast, in a shorter span of time, how many more moves that you can think ahead of is all about AI and its applications. I think that's a fantastic analogy that we have seen. So thank you very much, sir, for this session. There are many points, many takeaways for all of us today. We can't thank you enough for this wonderful session. Actually, 60 minutes or 90 minutes is not just sufficient. This calls for a longer, larger discussion, and there's several other questions that are still there, but they're partly addressed by you. Therefore, we did not touch upon those. We raised only those questions which have been not totally touched. So thank you very much. It has reaffirmed our faith in artificial intelligence, and we'll keep on thinking whether this Atmanirbharta will be attained by the power of artificial intelligence, not just to the context of India, but globally as well. This is a very important aspect. So thank you very much, sir. On behalf of everyone at ICFAI, I wholeheartedly thank you for this time and your expertise. Our Vice Chancellor, Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. Mahendra Reddy, and several other leaders from various ICFAI universities and business schools and tech schools have joined. Apart from all those industry participants and leaders from variety of sectors. On behalf of all of them, I'm thanking you. On behalf of Professor Prasad, I also thank you, sir. We will connect with you. We will stay in touch with you. I'll share a recording of this video before uploading it on our archives. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you, Professor Sudhakar. Thank you, Professor Prasad,
Thank you,
and
sir.
all other guests here, and whoever has been attending this program. And it has been my pleasure to be with you this evening. Thank you.
Great, sir. Great. Thank you very much, sir. I want to make small announcement to the participants that next Friday, May 27th at 7:30 p.m. we'll meet you again. Till such time, keep reading about artificial intelligence and look for those occasions and interfaces where AI has already invaded us. So at least we can be conscious of what is working on us and what's happening to us. Keep enjoying the AI world that is ahead of us as well. And we'll meet on 27th of May at 7:30 p.m. Thank you all and good night.